Today, in this video, we're going to be talking about a few common mistakes that first-time homebuyers always make. Hopefully, at the end of this video, you'll be able to figure out which of these things you might be falling into, or you can catch yourself before you decide to make these type of mistakes. Let's get into this video. First mistake I would say is not getting a pre-approval. This is one major mistake. Why? Because many times people might not realize what they might be approved for, or what they can't get approved for. And you don't want to waste time looking for homes and then just realizing that you're not able to afford this way into the showing process. And honestly, when you're submitting offers, you're going to need a pre-approval form or proof of funds when submitting an offer. And when you have a very competitive property and there's many offers going on it and you don't have your pre-approval letter, that might be the difference whether you get that property or not. So honestly, get a pre-approval. If you ask your lender to do a no hard credit check pre-approval, they can give you a letter and it won't hurt you. And honestly, it's a good idea to know what you can afford, so you don't end up looking for like a $300K home when you realize you're only able to get $250. So just get a pre-approval so you don't end up wasting time looking at homes that you may not be able to afford or you may not qualify for, and you have a better idea of what your budget is. The second mistake I always see people make is ignoring closing cost. We're not denying that there's closing cost here. There's going to be extra costs other than just the purchase price of the property and the down payment. You're going to have title fees, mortgage fees, commission. If you're using a buyer's agent, they're not offering commission. There's a lot of other fees that you'll be end up paying during the closing process. So you have to account for that. Honestly, I would always give in for $5,000–6,000 closing fees, give or take more depending on the property. You really should talk to me or your agent on what your closing costs could be, because it varies between price points. So just estimate that and take that in consideration. If you're going to get a home, honestly, you shouldn't just have the money for the down payment. You should have more than the down payment for sure. Number 3, I see sometimes people skip home inspections, and some terrible agents, they will sometimes encourage it just to get into the property. Honestly, skipping home inspections, especially for a first-time homebuyer, is really risky unless you're somehow some contractor yourself. The reason I say this is because there's a lot of things in a home that you may not be aware of, and that it might be an issue later on, and you wish you had that inspection. The inspection lets you know what's going on in the property and protects yourself in case anything unknown to the seller and to the agent themselves. So get an inspection so you protect yourself and you know what's going on in your property. Mistake number 4 is making emotional decisions. Honestly, sometimes you see a property that you like and you really want it, but you might have to submit over asking, or it might be way too high in your budget and you might be spending a lot per month compared to what you make. Just because of what you can get approved for doesn't mean it's such a good idea that you buy at that price. Depending on how much the monthly payments are, you have to look at your budget, how much you make, so you know it's healthy for you. A good rule of thumb would be, at least I would shoot around 30% of your income should be your mortgage, at least. Or I mean, at the maximum. I mean, you can go more if you have to, but it should not be more than 50%. Honestly, you can't get approved even if it's more than 50%. The last thing you want to be is stuck in your golden jail. The house is really nice, but the payments are way too high. Now you're playing paycheck to paycheck, scraping every penny to save up for other stuff in the future. Mistake number 5 is overlooking the neighborhood. You got to take in consideration what kind of neighborhood you're moving into, especially if you're trying to raise a family or something. Make sure that you know how the schools are like, what kind of amenities are nearby, what is the safety levels in that area. Many things I can't tell you, like the safety, but you can look that stuff up on your own. Knowing what is in your neighborhood is a very good way to find out how well your property is going to grow in value over the long run. If it's in a very low, bad neighborhood where there's a lot of bad schools and stuff like that, you might have to expect that prices might not grow so fast. If it's in a really good area, you might expect that prices might grow really quickly. So you got to take in consideration what kind of neighborhood you're moving into so you know the value of your home. The 6th mistake that I see people make a lot is not considering the resale value of your home, even though you plan on living it into the long run. The reason is I say this is because you never know what happens in life. You might have to move due to a new job, or some new circumstances come up that you have to move. You never know. So you should really consider how much your property could go for in the future if you plan to move. You have to realize that just because you can't really sell at the same price that you bought it at, you're still losing money because there's closing costs and other fees to pay in when you're selling your home. You're gonna have to realize that if you want to make the same amount of money back on your property, you might have to sell it for way more, or I mean slightly more at least, so you can cover the closing cost and the value and the stuff that you paid into the property. Just consider resale value and how easy it is to sell your home. If you're in an area where there's very low purchase and inventory and it's like just a very quiet area, you have to consider that if you have to get rid of your property, it might take a while. If you're in a really good neighborhood and properties sell really quickly and areas growing, you might have to worry way less because you could probably sell your property, get a profit, and you'll be out easily. Just consider the resale value, make sure you know what you're buying so you can protect yourself in the future. Number 7 is failing to hire a buyer's agent, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. Honestly, the argument of, a pro real estate investor doesn't need a buyer's agent, it can hold in many cases because they know what they're doing. They know the contracts, they probably know more than many agents on this stuff. But if you're a first-time home buyer, you probably don't know what you're doing. Not to be mean to you, but there's a lot of things in the home buying process that doesn't come really quickly. People who do this all the time, like me or investors, they know this because they go through the process a lot. There are things like inspections, appraisal, comp data, worrying about if the loan will qualify for this home or not, when you put your EMD, your down payment. Getting all these things handled out can be very overwhelming for a first-time home buyer. And just to save a couple $1,000s, you might risk your deal or the type of property you get into. Yeah, you might save a couple $1,000s on an agent, but you end up spending way more on a deal because you got swindled by some expert seller. If I was a seller's agent and there was a person without a buyer, I'm honestly going to be able to take advantage of that and get the most money for my seller, which a good agent should do. So if you want to be protected on the buy side, you really should use a buyer's agent so you can protect yourself and probably get a good deal on the property. Or at least you can insure yourself a little bit more. If you have any questions about the home buying process or any other mistakes that you want to add, feel free to comment down below or DM me. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Shah and you have a great day.